The Chosen One's prophecy was undoubtedly one of the most important prophecies in the galactic history. But were there any other prophecies? Shockingly, yes, there was actually another Jedi who did have a prophecy, but not one by the Jedi, but rather the Sith. The prophecy would be actually about none other than Mace Windu. It's safe to say that Mace Windu was probably one of the strongest Jedi of his time, besides from Yoda, Anakin, Plo Koon, and a couple of other Jedi. The prophecy concerning Mace Windu would actually come after the prophecy of the Chosen One, and was heavily intertwined with the Mandalorians. To be more specific, one single event that changed history as they knew it. And this historical event would take place on the Battle of Geonosis. The beginning of the Sith prophecy would begin all the way back to the Sith Lord known as Darth Traya, which he stated a Jedi Knight with a purple blade would end the Mandalorian culture as they knew it. But what exactly does this mean, and why was it so important? It's interesting because Darth Traya actually held a deep hatred for the Mandalorians, as well as an impressive Force ability that allowed her to look into the future through the dark side of the Force. But these were not full visions, but rather slight glimpses of what the future could hold. During this time, the Mandalorians have terrorized the age of Traya, and when she was a Jedi Master, the Mandalorians were trying to seize control over the entire galaxy, and this event would lead to the death of many of Traya's students, and it would be because of this and the fall of Revan and Malak that would eventually lead to her downfall to the Sith Empire. And due to her being a Jedi before falling, she held a great knowledge of the Force, and probably more about the Force than anyone in history, and after joining the ranks of Sith, she would begin to receive visions of the future. Now what's interesting is this ability was deemed very dangerous not only to the Jedi but to the Sith as well, but she would ignore their fears, and would soon gain a vision about the Mandalorians and a Jedi with a purple blade. And from that glimpse, she would make the prophecy of Mace Windu. It stated, "They will die a death that will last a millennia, until at last, in history, their shell of an armor upon a shell of a man easily slain by a Jedi." And to many, this might be meaningless and even confusing. But taking a better look into it, we get a pretty good fit of what happens into Star Wars canon and Legends. But what does this mean in Legends? Well, Jango Fett was announced Mandalore, which in simple terms, which means he was the ruler of Mandalorian culture and creed. It was believed to have ended when Mace Windu killed Jango on the Battle of Geonosis, who was the Mandalorian leader. And this also fits into canon as well with the Empire and the Mandalorians. In canon, it was the death of Jango Fett and the start of the Clone Wars, which led to the destruction of the Mandalorians and their homeworld, due to the Empire taking the Republic's place after the fall of the Jedi, and would deem the Mandalorians too dangerous and would destroy them in a horrific event known as the Night of 1,000 Tears, which, for those of you who don't know, was the destruction of Mandalore, turning the surface into a glassy wasteland and spreading any remaining Mandalorians across the galaxy. This fits into the prophecy when it's stated, "Slain to be easy by a Jedi Knight." What I think this means is that if Jango Fett were to survive the fight with Mace Windu, the fate of the Mandalorians would have been much different. Something that I think is ironic is how accurate the prophecy states, "The shell of their armor upon a shell of a man," meaning the clones, who in many cases referred to as a shell of a man. And to add even more proof, the armor of the clones were designed off of Jango Fett's armor. The reason Darth Traya was so interested in seeing the future was because she believed that if she changed the future by changing the past, she would become extremely powerful. And it would be because of this that it would be because of her being a former Jedi Master and now a Sith and being able to see into the future that the Sith would make a pretty rare occurrence and team up to strip her of her powers, even going as far as to make her unable to use the Force. But what's even more ironic is that Darth Traya was so obsessed with the Force ability known as Shatterpoint, which also was an ability that Mace Windu used. But unlike Mace Windu, she referred to them as fractures. Even in her dying moments, she looked into the future and foresaw the death of Jango Fett, but only through a Shatterpoint. With all of this, I think it's safe to say that Darth Traya and Mace Windu were connected through the Force, even though they were born 4,000 years apart. Another interesting fact is that Shatterpoint was not an ability taught, rather inherited, which means a very few select Force wielders were ever able to use it, which is probably why Darth Traya was able to see into the future one last time and see Windu, due to him also using Shatterpoint. And that was a prophecy of Mace Windu. What are your guys' thoughts on this? I think it's cool that Mace Windu has his own prophecy, and even though it doesn't seem like much, it does change the course of the entire galaxy when you think about it. And it was predicted over 4,000 years ago, which is pretty cool. So if you enjoyed today's video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. And with that, my fellow Star Wars nerds, may the Force be with you.